When I think back to the type of person I was back when I attended Warren Wilson, I remember that I had a young man's striving and desire to be challenged. I also remember that I had a young man's crushing insecurity. And looking back, it's kind of astounding that I found a teacher in Steve who was able to invite me toward excellence and point out areas in which I needed to grow without causing me to retreat. And on the contrary, he really lit a fire under my passion, and I thrived for those 2 years that I studied privately with him. And of course, I found his classes inspirational as well. The piece I'm about to play is appropriate on a couple of levels. It was a piece that I studied with Steve, and I was given the privilege of being able to practice and take lessons in the hall that is being named after him today. And I just loved going in there and playing that Steinway. And we had our lessons in there, and it was there that I really solidified my desire to become a musician as a career. This piece is also appropriate in that, in my mind, it's about remembrance, and you'll hear grief, you'll hear anguish, you'll hear rage, you'll hear happy memories. It's a very honest depiction of the impact that those things and people who we love have upon us. And Steve, this is for you.
I came to Warren Wilson in 1991, a year after the music program was dissolved, with every intention of studying music as much and as deeply as I could. For my work assignment, I was appointed to the music wing, but Steve Williams was on sabbatical my freshman year, and I spotted him for the first time sporting a glorious, flowing mullet in a photo on a student co-worker's desk. My co-worker worshipped Steve, referred to him as a music god, and when I told him I thought the organ was an awful instrument, he looked at me with cold, dead eyes and said, "You will eat those words." Steve would show up randomly in the music wing my freshman year on short breaks from working on his doctorate. He was also sadly mulletless, which at the time I found very disappointing. However, he did engage us lowly students on these rare visits, asking us how we wanted to study music, what our plans were, could we carry a tune, and did we love opera? We students, all of us wild adolescent animals, adored Steve the second we met him. What I most remember about Steve in my 4 years at Warren Wilson is my arrival at the end of a bona fide music program, then slowly watching it shrivel to almost nothing at all. No college choir, music theory classes with 2 or 3 students, and only a handful of us practicing in the mostly empty music wing. It felt like an extinction unraveling. Nearly the whole faculty in the music department retired in my first 2 years. But for those of us interested in being singers, Steve helped lift and direct the program from nothingness. And there was suddenly a college choir, and under his direction, it became a surprisingly great college choir. Steve offered private voice coaching and offered us opportunities to perform on campus and in the community. I think Steve's greatest gift, besides being an impeccable musician, was his great enthusiasm working with students. Anyone here today who ever studied with him in nearly any capacity knows how encouraging, patient, and non-judgmental Steve was, regardless of our talent or lack thereof. He could perform near miracles with students, unearthing the best versions of our musical selves. I once sang the baritone solo in the 4A Requiem, and I was so nervous it was disastrous. Steve looked at me from behind the organ in hopes of getting me right with God, if not just back in time with the music. With such a calm, generous presence, it's like he gave me a Xanax through his steady, encouraging eyes, as 4A likely rolled in his grave. The rehearsal hall, a central space for all of us who studied music, reflected the demise of the music program for years. The stained soundproofing foam was falling off the walls. The sad folding chairs were dingy and bent. The risers wobbled. One of the grand pianos was beyond salvation. But we made music there, under the tutelage of a brilliant musician, and sometimes the rehearsal hall was filled with profound, mesmerizing, breathtaking art. Bach, Vaughan Williams, Fauré, Mozart, everything legato, of course. I used to wonder how someone so supremely talented could stand to work at Warren Wilson, where our musical priorities competed with climbing trees, skinny dipping in the pond, rest in peace, playing old-time music in front of Gladfelter with the president of the college, volunteering, work assignments, and other aspects of our hippie lifestyles. But it dawned on me many years ago that Steve loved working with us because of, not in spite of this. The challenge of helping us to discover our potential, no matter how humble it might be, was his gratification. I associate many Warren Wilson music legends, Doug and Darcy Orr, Wayne Erbson, Warren Goggin, Bob Keener, Phil Jameson, Sam Scoville, and so many others with the rehearsal hall. But to my mind, figuratively at least, Steve helped build and shape it. And there's no denying that Steve filled that room with some of the most hypnotic, supreme music that's ever been played there, some of which I can still hear. I miss Steve very much. I miss hearing him play the organ, by which I grudgingly admit it is one of the most beautiful instruments on earth, but only if it's played by a master. I miss Steve's dry wit and humor, his musical brilliance, the mischievous twinkle in his ice blue eyes, his passion for dogs and Montserrat Caballé. I am grateful Steve's legacy lives in the newly upgraded recital hall. Not only is the recital hall still a place to share one of humanity's greatest, most transcendent and intimate art forms, it's also a living monument to a gifted and brilliant teacher who guided and inspired us. And it's my wish that students today and in the future can feel the enormous talent and generous spirit that Steve embodied. Thank you, Steve, for everything.
Dr. Blozen. That was beautiful. But I'm here to tell you there's no such thing as an unruly schnauzer. The first time I ever saw Steve Williams, I was on the choir tour bus as an admissions counselor. We stopped on 40 at 240, which was kind of new then, and this guy got on the bus. I thought that was awkward. And turns out it was Steve, and he was going to be the accompanist for the choir tour. I was not much younger than him, about 3 years, I'd say, and we got to be fast friends. While I was working in the admissions office, probably the next year, I was bored as all get out. I was like, I gotta go somewhere. We need to go do something. So I talked to the then church relations director, and it was decided that Steve and I would take a tour of churches in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, I think. Right before we left, in my little tiny Toyota Starlet, probably one of the smallest cars before the smart car, he had a church meeting, Beverly, and apparently Fred was very interested in this tour we had put together called From Bach to Banjo. Probably the only time that's ever been done. And Fred said, "You all are out doing gigs for God." So as we traveled through the Shenandoah Valley, we would see these little white clapboard churches, and we would look at each other and say, there is an opportunity to do a gig for God right there. We should get off the interstate. We became great friends, and Steve had a biting sense of humor. Not too much has been said about that, but he was very funny, and we just, I have to tell you this one thing. When we were out gigging for God, whatever church we were in, on, I think it was Thursday nights when Dallas came on, Steve was very attent to what time it was, because we had to get back to the hotel to watch Dallas. I'd never seen it before. He was appalled. Years later, he would invite me to sing at the church, and I will say that I never had the opportunity to have Steve as an instructor or teacher, and he probably never knew that I sang a piece of opera in that recital hall one time, a piece from the Magic Flute. So I feel I'm patting myself on the back about that, because that was probably my one and only time. We also, and I remembered this sitting here, we got season tickets to the North Carolina Symphony, I think 2 seasons in a row. And we would go down to Asheville and meet at the Civic Center, Thomas Wolfe Auditorium, and listen to the symphony. I always knew Steve had schnauzers, and when I got my rescue about 6 years ago, Chewy, of course, what do? You put your dog's picture on Facebook. Within 4 minutes, I had a message from Steve that said, "Call me now." And he got to my Chewy's siblings or cousins or whatever was going on in that house, we never knew. So I'm super happy that John has got those dogs and is taking care of them, because I know how much Stephen loved those dogs, and I know how much they helped him on his last journey. This song is just a love song. Way down here in Carolina, there's where I long to be. There's where he's waiting, 'neath that old pine tree. Well, I can hear those mountains calling. Come to your mountain home, back to your sweetheart and your Carolina home. Carolina moon, keep on shining, shining on the one who waits for me. Carolina moon, I'm pining for the place I long to be. How I'm hoping tonight you'll go to the right window, scatter your light, say it's all right, please do, and tell him that I'm blue and lonely, dreaming Carolina moon, Carolina moon, keep on shining, shining on the one who waits for me. Thank you. It is my privilege and my honor to introduce a former classmate of mine who actually grew up much better than we ever thought he would. Please make welcome our current president. I'm not going to call him an interim because by golly, he's doing the job. Please make welcome Bill Christie.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Bill Christie, and I'm the interim president of Warren Wilson College. It's my privilege to claim that. If you would, please join me in thanking all those who made this beautiful performances possible. Thank you to the amazing performers. Really very moving and spectacular performances. And thanks, a special thanks to Jonathan Hetrick. Jonathan, thank you for your leadership in making all this possible. Your leadership on this clearly shows your love for Steve and you honor him. Thank you, Jonathan. All of us continue to mourn Steve's passing, and we're humbled by the opportunity to memorialize him on campus through today's performance, and by dedicating the Dr. Stephen Allen Williams Recital Hall in his honor. As you have heard, Steve spent his entire professional career here at Warren Wilson College, almost 40 years, starting at age 25 as the chapel and college organist and joining the faculty of the music department at age 26. Steve was obviously a talented and much loved teacher, and he was the first recipient of the college's Teacher of the Year Award. He was known for creating community through music, bringing together faculty, staff, students, and volunteers alike to sing in the college choir and perform in a vast array of musicals. Steve's passion for teaching, community, and music will live on through all who learn and perform in the recital hall and through the students who receive the Dr. Stephen A. Williams Memorial Scholarship, which provides financial assistance to undergraduate students studying music at Warren Wilson College. And this is the part the presidents have to do. For those who would like to honor Steve's life and legacy, gifts may be made online or mailed to the college. Please see the details on the back of your program for more information. If you'd like to make a gift today, they can do it in the lobby. They can help you out. We thank all of you for being here. And now I'd like to invite you to join, for all of us to join Provost Jay Roberts, who's going to lead us, go over to the Kittredge Music Wing as we dedicate the Dr. Stephen Allen Williams Recital Hall with the unveiling of the shadow box and a ceremony over there. So we can process that way. Thank you for coming.